Have you ever wondered why the harder you fight for someone's respect, the less of it you actually get? It is an exhausting cycle that leaves you drained while toxic people continue to push your boundaries even further. Fighting for respect with words is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. It only gives them fuel. Are you tired of explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you at every single turn? What if the most powerful thing you could say to a toxic person is actually nothing at all? Welcome to The Silent Secret, a counterintuitive approach to reclaiming your power without uttering a single word. Most people believe that standing up for themselves requires a loud voice and a mountain of logical arguments. But begging for basic human decency only teaches toxic people that your boundaries are always up for negotiation. When you fight back verbally, you often fall into the trap of reactive abuse, giving them exactly what they want. The truth is that respect from toxic people can be earned without you ever having to speak a word. They thrive on your emotional reaction, using your own words as weapons to keep you trapped in their drama. Toxic people only stop crossing boundaries when specific actions are taken rather than through endless begging or fighting. This strategy is about protecting your energy and maintaining emotional control when others try their best to provoke you. Think of this approach as a forbidden cheat code for navigating the most difficult relationships in your life. While others are losing their cool, you will be mastering the art of nonverbal respect through calculated silence. You do not need to justify your existence or explain your worth to someone who is not listening anyway. Your silence is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate expression of your personal power and boundaries. By choosing not to engage, you strip them of the emotional fuel they need to keep the conflict alive. We are moving away from the noise and toward a position of quiet, unshakable strength that commands attention. Remember, respect is earned through consistent action and silent boundaries, not through the volume of your voice. It feels strange at first to stop defending yourself, but the results will speak louder than words ever could. But to understand why silence works, you first have to understand the game they are actually playing. You see, a toxic person's greatest fear is a target whose reactions they can no longer predict. They aren't just trying to make you mad. They want a reaction that hands them your mind. To a toxic person, drama is oxygen, and without your reaction, they eventually start to suffocate. They are masters at finding your insecurities and waiting for the right moment to push your buttons. Every provocation is a calculated move designed to see if you will finally crack under the pressure. Toxic people expect you to explode or get angry whenever they decide to push those hidden buttons. They live for the moment you lose your cool, because drama is what they truly crave most. Their primary goal is to watch you lose control, effectively handing them the keys to your emotions. Have you ever noticed how they seem to smirk right when you finally snap in frustration? That subtle smile is their victory lap, confirming they have successfully manipulated your internal state of mind. When a target explodes, toxic people feel they have gained absolute power and dominance over that person. Your anger is not a shield. To them, it is a gift that proves they are winning. Who is really in charge when someone else can dictate your mood with just one simple sentence? They want you to engage in reactive abuse so they can play the victim in the end. By losing your temper, you are essentially following a script they wrote specifically for your own downfall. Every time you react emotionally, you are giving away the very power you are trying to defend. They don't want a healthy conversation. They want a spectacle where you look like the unstable one. Establishing firm boundaries begins with realizing that your emotional control is your most valuable weapon of defense. Protecting your energy means refusing to play the part they have assigned to you in their drama. When you explode, you are not defending yourself, you are following their script and giving them exactly what they want. True nonverbal respect is earned when you remain calm while they are desperately trying to provoke you. Instead of being the fire that fuels their chaos, you must become the cold silence they fear. Now that you see the game for what it is time to flip the script. To flip the script, you must first understand the hidden triggers toxic people use against you. Think of your emotions as a complex control panel they are constantly trying to hack into. These individuals aren't looking for a resolution. They are hungry for the chaos of high-stakes drama. Deep down, toxic people have a relentless desire for others to completely lose their internal control. They carefully study your sensitivities, looking for the specific buttons that will set off an explosion. When they push those buttons, they fully expect you to respond with a predictable burst of anger. Every time you react exactly as they planned, you are handing them the keys to your peace. Your visible frustration isn't just a reaction. To them, it is a shiny trophy of their success. By triggering your explosion, they feel a sudden rush of absolute power and control over you. This emotional hijacking is a calculated move designed to keep you off balance and perpetually on the defensive. When you allow your boundaries to be crossed so easily, you become a participant in their game. Each outburst confirms their belief that they can manipulate your feelings whenever they choose to do so. Consider how it feels to be baited into a fight you never actually wanted to start. Reacting to every single provocation makes you comparable to a puppet being controlled by invisible strings. If they can predict your anger, they can direct your actions and dominate your mental space. This cycle of reactive abuse keeps you trapped in a loop of constant stress and exhaustion. Realize that your emotional control is the one thing they cannot take without your active permission. Protecting your energy means refusing to play the role they have scripted for you in this drama. Every moment you stay calm in the face of their manipulation, you are reclaiming your personal power. Stop being the puppet and start recognizing the strings before they even have a chance to pull. Strategy number 1 is the most difficult, but also the most immediate. Neutralizing the drama with your peace. Most people think they need a sharp comeback, but what you actually need is a powerful stayback. When you react to every single provocation, you become a puppet dancing to someone else's erratic rhythm. Every outburst you give is just another string they pull to keep you under their direct command. What happens to a frustrated puppet master when the puppet suddenly stops moving and stays perfectly still? Silence is often the loudest message you can send to someone who expects a screaming match. By remaining unbothered when someone is rude, you instantly create a state of profound confusion for them. Your calmness is a visual signal that their usual tactics are no longer effective against your shield. It proves that you have mastered your emotional control and can no longer be manipulated by words. Think of your peace as a thick glass wall standing between you and their poisonous insults. They can see you clearly, but they cannot touch your spirit or disrupt your internal sense of balance. This non-verbal respect is earned the moment you decide that your energy is far too valuable to waste. They want to lure you into reactive abuse, forcing you to look as unstable as they are. Refusing to enter their chaotic arena is the only way to truly win a fight you never started. You are reclaiming the keys to your happiness that you once handed over without even realizing it. Watch as their frustration grows because they can no longer find the buttons that used to trigger you. By staying peaceful, you force them to face their own toxicity without any distractions from your side. This is just the first of 7 specific strategies designed to make toxic people finally respect you. Can they really claim a victory if you never even bother to pick up the weapon they offered? Protecting your energy is not about being passive. It is about being the absolute master of yourself. When the strings are cut, the puppet master is left alone on an empty, silent stage. But what happens when the provocation gets physical or even louder? That's where strategy 2 comes in. The most powerful speech you will ever give is the one you never actually say. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do to protect your boundaries is simply to leave. Why give a closing argument to a judge who has already decided you are guilty? You must realize that toxic people do not care about the explanations you try to provide. In fact, providing explanations often results in more arguing and the twisting of your words. An unexplained exit is like hanging up a phone mid-sentence, leaving them holding a dead line. Every word you offer is just more ammunition for them to use against your character. Walking away without a single word is the ultimate high-value response to blatant disrespect. If fire is the argument, your silence is the extinguisher that refuses to feed the flame. Maintaining your emotional control means recognizing when a conversation has no potential for a resolution. You demonstrate non-verbal respect for yourself by refusing to participate in a cycle of reactive abuse. The urge to win the argument is a trap designed to keep you stuck in drama. True power comes from the quiet realization that you no longer need their understanding to move. Protecting your energy requires you to stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Imagine the impact of turning your back while they wait for your desperate defensive rebuttal. That silence creates a vacuum that they cannot fill with their typical manipulation tactics. Does your explanation change their behavior, or does it just invite more pain into your life? High-value individuals know that their peace is worth far more than the last word. You might feel like you are leaving things unfinished, but in reality, you are ending the loop. Leaving without a word forces the toxic person to sit with their own uncomfortable reflection. Your absence speaks louder than any lecture you could ever hope to deliver to them. Silence is the ultimate boundary, telling them their behavior no longer warrants your precious time. While they scream into the void, you are already moving toward a much brighter horizon. By choosing silence, you reclaim the narrative and prepare for the next level of mastery. When you talk, toxic people listen for weaknesses instead of actually hearing your side. Let's look at two ways this power dynamic plays out in the real world. Picture the frantic explicable, trying to defend their boundaries with a wall of words. Remember how they love twisting your words to keep the drama spinning in circles? You pour your heart out for understanding, but only provide them with fresh ammunition. Explaining yourself to them is like trying to teach a cat to bark utterly impossible. It is a complete waste of your time and only leaves you feeling confused. How many hours have you spent rehearsing an explanation they never intended to hear? Now, imagine a different path that requires no words and preserves your inner peace. Contrast that frantic energy with the person who simply decides they have had enough. Removing yourself quietly from a toxic situation communicates that their behavior is absolutely unacceptable. This silent removal speaks louder than any long-winded speech you could ever deliver today. While they wait for your reaction, your calm departure leaves them with nothing to fight. Which person looks more in control? The one shouting reasons or the one walking away? By choosing silence, you stop being a predictable target and start becoming a powerful enigma. Walking away from nonsense immediately increases your value in the eyes of a toxic person. They realize they can no longer manipulate your emotions or demand your precious attention anymore. You are finally protecting your energy by refusing to participate in their manufactured chaos. Silence is the ultimate shield against reactive abuse and the trap of endless arguments. They thrive on the chase, but you have just removed the prize from the game. This isn't about being rude. It is about establishing a boundary they cannot cross. Your calm exit is an act of self-respect that signals you are finally done playing. They cannot twist your silence into a weapon because there is simply nothing to grab. Once you realize silence is a boundary, you realize how much energy you've been wasting. Why do you still feel that burning need to make them understand your point of view? It feels like if you just find the right words, they will finally see the light. This deep-seated urge to be understood is a natural human trait we all share and value. However, when dealing with toxic people, this innocent desire becomes your greatest and most dangerous weakness. You believe that clarity leads to resolution, but for them, your clarity is simply more ammunition. Have you ever noticed how your most heartfelt explanations only seem to ignite more heated arguments? This happens because toxic people do not care about the actual explanations you are providing them. They aren't listening to understand your heart. They are listening to find a hook for combat. Every detail you share is a new piece of data they can use to derail the conversation. Providing these explanations often results in a never-ending cycle of arguing and unnecessary frustration. You think you are building a bridge, but you are actually handing them bricks to throw. When you explain your boundaries, they see a map of exactly where to push you harder. Their goal isn't to reach a mutual understanding or to find a peaceful middle ground. Instead, they specifically use that urge to explain as a way to twist your words. Suddenly, your simple request for respect is transformed into an attack on their entire character. They take your sentences apart and reassemble them into something you never actually said or meant. This tactic is a cornerstone of reactive abuse, designed to make you lose your emotional control. By keeping you in a defensive loop, they ensure you never focus on their original bad behavior. You find yourself defending your intent rather than addressing the actual problem at hand. Protecting your energy means realizing that some people are committed to misunderstanding you completely. When you stop explaining, you take back the power they used to twist your reality. Nonverbal respect begins the moment you stop begging them to see things from your perspective. Your silence isn't a lack of communication. It is a firm refusal to participate in chaos. Why waste your precious breath on someone who treats your truth like a weapon to wield? Remember that your value is not dependent on their ability to acknowledge or validate your feelings. Understanding this trap is the first step toward reclaiming the peace you have been losing. Now that you've mastered the exit, you need to master the gatekeeping of your own life. Your attention is the currency they crave. If they can't respect you, they cannot afford you. Is your time a public park for anyone, or is it a private sanctuary for the worthy? Why are you giving 24-hour access to someone who only uses it to tear you down? Think of your peace of mind as a premium subscription that requires a very high respect fee. Toxic people thrive on your time, but strong people know how to limit that valuable access. When you stop providing your time and attention, you take back the power they once held. Remember how they needed your reaction like oxygen? Now, you are simply cutting off the supply. Strong people prioritize protecting their energy, ensuring that no one can drain them without permission. Your time is a high-value commodity, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table anymore. Toxic people absolutely hate it when a person suddenly stops providing them with constant attention. They feel the shift immediately, realizing they no longer have a direct line to your emotions. This isn't about being cruel. It is about protecting your peace from those who seek chaos. Becoming less available is a powerful method to show that bad behavior has real consequences. If they stop paying the respect fee, their access to your life must be revoked instantly. You are not a 24/7 convenience store where they can dump their drama whenever they want. Protecting your energy means realizing that your presence is a privilege, not a basic human right. When you reduce your availability, you send a clear message that you value your own time. Toxic people rely on your constant presence to feel significant, but you are changing that dynamic. Every minute you spend explaining yourself is a minute of access you are giving away for free. Strong people use their limited availability as a natural boundary against those who violate their peace. When they realize their bad behavior results in a loss of access, the game completely changes. They may try to pull you back in, but your silence is the strongest gate you have. Non-verbal respect is earned when they see you are willing to walk away from the noise. Your peace is far more important than their need for a target to vent their frustrations. By limiting access, you teach people exactly how much their disrespect will cost them in time. Stop being available for every crisis and start being available for your own growth and healing. Reclaiming your time is the ultimate act of self-respect that toxic people cannot easily ignore. You have built the gate, and now you must decide who is truly worthy of entering. But setting that gate is hard when you've been taught to be polite at all costs. Stop apologizing for having a spine, and start reclaiming the respect you deserve today. We are conditioned to say "I'm sorry" before we ever dare to say no. These two small words are silently killing the respect others have for your space. Toxic people will repeatedly cross your lines if you permit them to do so. They might demand too much of your time or show up at your door unannounced. Often, they test your limits by saying rude things just to see your reaction. If you apologize for your boundary, why should they ever take it seriously? Every time you say sorry for a limit, you signal that your boundaries are wrong. Apologizing makes it appear as though having personal limits is somehow a bad thing. It is like a no trespassing sign that apologizes for being an inconvenience. When you apologize for the sign, nobody is actually going to stay off your grass. You must stop asking for permission and start stating your terms with absolute confidence. Setting boundaries without an apology communicates that you believe you truly deserve respect. This move demonstrates emotional control while shifting the focus back to your own reality. Are you really sorry for wanting to be treated like a dignified human being? Your limits are not negotiable favors that require an explanation or a nervous excuse. Next time they push, state your boundary clearly and let the silence hold its ground. Notice how the dynamic shifts when you stop treating your needs like an inconvenience. True respect is earned when you show that your boundaries are firm and non-negotiable. Remember, a boundary is a fact, and facts never need an apology to exist. Protecting your energy requires you to master the art of the unapologetic stance. When you stand firm, you stop the cycle of reactive abuse and regain control. Nonverbal respect begins the moment you stop explaining why your needs are valid. Do not let toxic people dictate the terms of your own mental peace. Your worth is not up for debate, so stop treating your boundaries like suggestions. Have you ever noticed how toxic people seem to treat your personal limits like mere suggestions? This happens because toxic people will repeatedly cross lines if they are permitted to do so. If you don't stand firm, they will keep pushing until your comfort zone completely disappears. They test your resolve by stepping over small boundaries before they try to break larger ones. To stop this cycle, you must first recognize the specific ways they try to invade your space. Think about the time someone has asked for way too much of your time or energy. Or perhaps they show up at your house unannounced, expecting you to drop everything for them. These behaviors are not just minor annoyances. They are clear examples of crossing your personal lines. When someone says something rude disguised as a joke, they are testing your tolerance for disrespect. They might make backhanded compliments or criticize your choices under the guise of being helpful. Every unannounced visit or unreasonable demand is a strategic move to see what you will allow. Recognizing these subtle incursions is the first step toward regaining your emotional control and peace. Once you identify the intrusion, the way you respond determines the future of that relationship. Many of us feel a deep, reflexive need to soften the blow when we say no. You might find yourself saying, "I'm sorry, but I cannot help you with that right now." But here is the secret. Apologizing for a boundary makes it appear as though having limits is wrong. When you say "I am sorry," you are inadvertently telling them that your needs are a burden. Instead, you must learn to state your limits without a single hint of an apology. Setting boundaries without an apology communicates that you truly believe you deserve a high level of respect. It shows that your time and energy are valuable assets that you protect with absolute confidence. Imagine responding to an unannounced visitor by simply saying, "Now isn't a good time for me." Notice how that sentence feels stronger and more definitive without the weight of a fake apology. By removing the apology, you stop acting like a person who is doing something bad. You are simply a person with standards, and those standards do not require any further explanation. This shift in communication is essential for protecting your energy from those who would drain it. Remember, you are not being mean when you refuse to apologize for your personal limits. You are merely establishing the rules for how you choose to be treated in this world. If they react with anger, it only proves that the boundary was necessary in the first place. Your nonverbal respect grows when your spoken words match the strength of your internal values. Mastering this zero apology approach is the ultimate way to stop reactive abuse before it starts. The time for one last chance has passed. If they didn't hear your words, let them feel your absence. Strategy 5 is where the rubber meets the road, representing the difference between a threat and a consequence. How many times have you warned them, just for the same behavior to repeat 5 minutes later? Is it really a boundary if there is never a concrete consequence for breaking your personal limits? You must realize that toxic people often ignore verbal warnings, perceiving them as nothing but empty bluffs. They listen to your words but only wait for the moment you inevitably back down again. Verbal threats are like a dog barking behind a fence, where passersby eventually stop feeling any fear. When your words carry no weight, you lose your emotional control and the respect you deserve. Action is the ultimate form of communication and the only language that toxic people truly understand. Instead of shouting into the void, you must shift your focus toward decisive and permanent actions. Taking action, like removing someone from your life, is more effective than making another verbal threat. This decisive step stops the cycle of reactive abuse by removing the source of the conflict entirely. You are protecting your energy by refusing to participate in a game where the rules always change. Remember that your presence is a privilege that should only be granted to those who respect you. When you stop explaining and start acting, you reclaim your power and your nonverbal respect. You no longer need to convince them of your worth when your actions speak for themselves. If they chose to ignore your voice, let them learn the weight of your silence instead. Once you take action, you realize you don't need them to understand your perspective anymore. You simply need them to be gone so your own life can finally begin to move forward. True strength is not found in the volume of your voice, but in the finality of your footsteps. Stop treating your boundaries like suggestions and start enforcing them with the weight of your choices. This is how you cultivate a life where toxic influence can no longer take root or thrive. Reclaiming your life requires the courage to walk away when words are no longer enough. The best revenge isn't getting even, it's becoming completely unrecognizable to the person who once hurt you. You might be tempted to strike back and make them feel the exact pain they caused. But falling for the urge to retaliate is walking straight into a meticulously crafted psychological trap. If you are fighting in the mud, aren't you just getting as dirty as they are? Seeking revenge keeps you mentally stuck at the exact same level as the toxic person. It traps you in a cycle of perpetual anger that prevents any real healing from taking place. Every moment you spend plotting their downfall is a moment you are still living for them. Do you want to spend your life living in their chaotic head or your own peaceful one? Seeking revenge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to finally die. Pursuing a vendetta actually provides the toxic person with the very energy they crave from you. They want to know they still have the power to influence your emotions and your actions. By reacting with rage, you are inadvertently confirming that they still hold power over you. They are waiting for you to explode so they can label you as the primary problem. When you remain calm, you deprive them of the ammunition they need to continue the cycle. Reclaiming your life starts with protecting your energy and refusing to engage in their reactive abuse. Nonverbal respect is earned when you show that their provocations no longer have any impact. Choosing peace over conflict prevents you from being dragged down into the trenches of their misery. Building a fulfilling life without them earns far more respect than any calculated act of revenge. Your silence isn't a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate proof of your internal emotional control. Your indifference is the loudest message you can send to someone who thrives on your attention. When you stop feeding the drama, the toxic person loses their grip on your daily reality. True victory is found in the quiet moments where they no longer occupy space in your mind. Remember that revenge is a tie that binds you to them for as long as you seek it. Choosing peace is the sharp knife that finally cuts that tie and sets you free forever. Peace is not the absence of justice, but the presence of your own self-worth and dignity. Have you ever wondered why seeking justice against toxic people often leaves you feeling more exhausted than ever? We often think that getting even will finally set us free from the pain they caused us. But the reality is that pursuing revenge acts as a hidden tether, keeping you bound to them. When you seek to strike back, you are actually staying mentally stuck at their level of chaos. This cycle of reactive abuse only serves to perpetuate the very anger you are trying to escape. Instead of moving forward, you remain locked in a struggle that keeps their influence alive and well. Every moment spent plotting your next move is a moment where they still control your emotional state. You might feel like you are winning, but you are actually sacrificing your own mental peace. Toxic people thrive on attention, and your quest for revenge provides the exact energy they desperately crave. By reacting to their provocations, you are handing them the satisfaction of knowing they still affect you. They do not care if the attention is negative, as long as you are still focused on them. Your outrage is their fuel, giving them a sense of power over your choices and your life. This is the trap of emotional control, where your desire for fairness becomes your own prison cell. Protecting energy means realizing that some people are simply not worth the effort of a response. If you want to truly win, you must break the connection by refusing to play their games. Nonverbal respect is earned when you show that their presence no longer dictates your internal world. Choosing peace over conflict is the most radical boundary you can ever set for your own well-being. When you stop fighting and start building, you reclaim the time they once stole from your future. Building a life without their shadow is the only way to gain the lasting respect you deserve. True victory is found in becoming someone they can no longer reach or influence with their tactics. Your absence and your silence send a much louder message than any clever retaliation ever could. Shift your focus from their destruction to your own growth and watch how the dynamic changes. Remember that your peace is the ultimate form of justice against those who tried to break it. Everything we have discussed leads to this final and most powerful shift in your journey today. They expect you to fail without them, but what happens when you do the exact opposite? Imagine the look on their face when they realize you have actually surpassed them in every way. What is more intimidating to a toxic person than someone who no longer needs their validation? By letting life handle the toxic person, you finally free up energy for your own personal growth. You stop falling for reactive abuse and start becoming the architect of your own thriving future. True respect isn't demanded through arguments. It is earned by living a life that speaks for itself. Growing independently is like a tree pushing through a heavy sidewalk to reach the sunlight above. Eventually, your quiet and steady growth will crack the very foundation of the control they once held. This is the moment you stop looking back and start focusing entirely on your own incredible potential. Toxic people watch from the sidelines, confused by the peace you have cultivated without their constant presence. Your success becomes a mirror that reflects their own stagnation and inability to move forward with you. You are no longer fueled by their drama, but by the quiet fire of your own ambition. Every step you take toward boundaries is a silent statement that their influence has finally expired. They see an individual thriving and realize they no longer have a place in your new world. Protecting your energy is the ultimate evidence that you have reclaimed your power and your dignity. You have mastered the art of non-verbal respect by simply becoming the best version of yourself. Your evolution is a process they cannot touch, manipulate, or take credit for in any possible way. This is the happy ending where you realize your worth was never tied to their toxic opinions. Maintaining emotional control ensures their chaos can no longer reach your inner sanctuary or your peace. That is the ultimate payoff, not an apology from them, but the beauty of your own evolution. You have earned the kind of respect that only comes from thriving against all of the odds. This isn't just a video. It's a blueprint for your new life and lasting inner peace. You have the tools now, but the real question is, which one will you use first? Knowledge is like a map, but taking action is the actual journey toward your freedom today. Which toxic person in your life is about to get a very silent, powerful surprise? Are you truly ready to take your power back and stop playing their exhausting games forever? Mastering emotional control is your ultimate shield against the chaos that toxic people try to create. Protecting your energy is no longer a luxury. It is a vital necessity for your mental survival. Every time you refuse to engage in reactive abuse, you win a silent battle for respect. Non-verbal respect is earned by what you tolerate, not just by the words you speak out loud. Now is the time to commit to one strategy and implement it before the sun sets. Will you choose the silent exit or the zero apology boundary to reclaim your space today? Leave a comment below telling us which specific strategy you are choosing to use right now. Sharing your commitment out loud is the first step toward making these changes stick for good. If you found value in these psychological strategies, subscribe to join our growing community today. We provide deeper guidance on boundary testing to help you navigate even the most difficult relationships. Do not let this momentum fade away as soon as the screen goes dark tonight. Your evolution depends on the consistency of the boundaries you choose to set right now. Remember that you deserve a life free from manipulation and the constant need for outside validation. Take the leap, trust the process, and watch as your world begins to change around you. I am excited to see you thrive as you step into your most powerful, independent self. I will see you in the next one as we continue this journey toward respect together.